A few days ago, I made a video where I said, things are about to get worse this week. Well, guess what? This week is here, and things did get a little bit worse. Now, of course, obviously, I don't want to make these videos for the doom's sake. I know some people get tired, but I'm here to give you guys a way to understand what the heck's going on, but also how you can still fight back. So, for anybody that hasn't been following, ladies and gentlemen, the United States House has passed that KIDS Act. Now, what the heck was the KIDS Act? Well, if we go back in time to the previous video, you'll find out that the KIDS Act was basically a set of acts and bills that were effectively designed to protect children online. Now, I find it hilarious that the current government, that's actually, in my opinion, still protecting actual co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein, suddenly decides that we're trying to protect the kids. We're going to try to make sure they're safe online. And how the fuck do you make kids safe online? Well, you basically make it so that you kind of force a lot of companies to, under threat of possible fines, litigation, so on and so forth, collect all the user IDs and information on the internet. Now, again, you shouldn't feel comfortable uploading your information, your private stuff, to any random company, right? I made a video a couple days ago talking about Discord, right? Discord is going to come in and basically request that you send your ID to a company that has been in the controversy for, possibly having that information given out, yada, yada, yada. The reality of it is that even in that video, I told you there's like 4 different Discord alternatives, okay? If you have a group of friends or a server, consider switching over. It's really not that difficult to download a new program, switch things over, or even run a Docker container these days, okay? At this point, a goddamn idiot could figure out how to get that stuff going. Case in point, this exact channel, this idiot right here. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. House passes this KIDS Act, and immediately, some would think, oh my God, it's fucking over. But the reality is, it's not, okay? In the United States, for anybody that doesn't live in America or doesn't understand how the American system works, there are 2 places, the House and the Senate. Now, the reality of it is the House actually did pass this, and if you look closer into this, you can see that literally at 7:02 p.m., the motion to suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended agreed to by yeas and nays. So they needed 2 out of thirds, which they got, 267 to 117. So yes, overwhelmingly, it seems like both sides of the government got together to fuck you in the ass, okay? They're always bickering at each other about whatever the fuck is going on, but when it comes to bending over the American and taking away their rights, they just work together. It's like you're the goddamn bitch. You're just laying there, and these people are taking turns on you, okay? It is what it is. Like, it's crazy shit. So now we have a situation where it must pass the Senate. Now, from what I understand, the Senate is kind of on hold for like 2 weeks, so you got some time. Not a lot, but you got time. So you might be like, well, Muda, how do I fight back? What do I do? How do I fight? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can actually look up your senators. Now, I'm going to assume that, for this argument, imagine if you're living in downtown Los Angeles, possibly Central City East, possibly known as Skid Row. Well, we're going to take Skid Row's zip code, which is 90013. We're going to drop that shit into the EFF's Action Center. So again, this is a link right over here, and I'll actually probably put this into the description or actually just a pinned comment. And if you're an American, and remember, if you're an American, you can only do this. You might be like, well, Muda, you're not American. Why do you care so much, bro? I'm with somebody that is an American. My kids are American. I have to deal with this stuff in the future. This is something that affects basically everyone internationally, by the way, too. So it's crazy that Americans are basically in control of the rest of the world here. So take it kind of seriously, okay? So anyways, you go over here, put in your zip code, maybe your street address, and if you don't feel safe doing this, open up your own search engine and look for senators and individuals in your area. There it is. Actually, I entered some random restaurant address in the area, okay? It was a lot better for that. Anyway, so you put in your actual first name, so you can put in Mudahar, Anus, and then of course your email address. And actually over here, it'll find out, who the actual representative for you is. So your Congress member in this case, in downtown Los Angeles, would be Sidney Kamliger Dove. So again, over here, you put in your prefixes, you put in, I guess, whatever field you work in, and ultimately you go next. And what they do is they provide you a little like letter that they'll send. And of course, this information, once submitted, actually goes to your representative. But again, you can also just look up your representative, and it's very easy to do so. So you can go to house.gov or congress.gov, find your members specifically. Just put in your address. It's a government website, for crying out loud, so don't worry too much. You can even just put in like a city, for instance, and it's like your possible members. So again, just find the closest member to you and email them. In fact, you can probably just write the same email and just CC everyone on the list anyways. So again, I would recommend you just email the person that represents your specific district. That's something you can do, okay? That's actually the most effective way to fucking do it. When these people's emails get blasted, yeah, of course they're gonna listen. Right now, they're able to get away with shit because they think nobody cares. But if you actually raise a stink about it, fucking do it, you know? It's exactly what every other, like, lobbying organization does in the country. You just have to make your voice be heard. I feel like a fucking Hallmark card explaining that, but at some point you have to be the Hallmark card explaining that, okay? Anyways, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, before it passes the Senate, now if it does pass the Senate, God forbid, it goes to the president. Now, maybe the president, in this case, could veto the bill, like they can choose not to sign it. But again, if the president, from my understanding, does nothing at that point, or actually does just sign it in the White House, then it becomes law, and then we can actually say we lost, okay? Because at that point, it's kind of gotten too far. It's one of those things where now that it's a law, we have to hope that it goes to the judicial system and possibly gets fucking axed there for being an unconstitutional law. But again, I'll leave that to smarter fucking minds than mine. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of how you can fucking fight back against a situation. And really, that is the best way to fight back. Right now, if you kind of look at what's been happening with the Kids Act, a lot of the reality of this is that if you look carefully, and again, this is a lobbying report, this is something that I'm used to seeing through various investigations that I've done over the course of years, but you can see companies like Meta in this case, which would be Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, the guys who make the VR Oculus headsets. This company, which is led by Mark Zuckerberg, you can see that he's hired all these people, shuffled, in cases of millions of dollars. And again, what are some of the actual things he's interested in? Well, if you scroll down this lobbying report, you can even read things like the Kids Online Safety Act. So right over here, 1409, the same bills that we were talking about, or at least in these cases, other versions of it, right? You can see there's multiple different kinds of bills that are here. The Protecting Kids on Social Media Act. So what's kind of happened over here is that a lot of these companies, these big tech companies, have sort of sided with the government. It's not the days of SOPA and PIPA where Google was like blacking out parts of the fucking internet. No, a lot of these people have found out that, look, you have to comply in some capacity if you want to keep making millions or billions of dollars. So the reality of it is no company wants the responsibility of grabbing all that user information. So the reason why, we've looked at companies like Facebook that is involved in shit like this, the reality of it is that they want to pass the buck over to services like Google or services like Apple, right? So instead of them grabbing everyone's identification, they want Apple to be the ones grabbing IDs on the App Store. Now you might be like, okay, well, maybe that kind of makes sense. But look at it from like the nefarious point of view, which is probably the more realistic point of view. See, if you put operating systems with age verification baked into them, the way that, again, it's kind of like, thought of to give that information up is through like API. So for instance, if Facebook isn't grabbing a child's information and Apple is, all they basically have to do is on the App Store, query whoever is downloading the application, check what their age range is, and all of a sudden, instead of collecting that information themselves or even dealing with laws that prevent them from grabbing children's information, they in theory can grab information markers on people that are children, basically sidestepping and getting by some of these shitty laws, literally, that are designed to protect kids, but in reality won't really protect those children anyways. And again, ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't have to be the fucking channel that tells you. If you've been following me even for like a year, I've been talking about this shit for years now, for 10 years. I've walked you through the craziest cyber attacks and the craziest fucking like data leaks that have happened. It is a story as old as time itself. You think any of these services that are grabbing all of your information are going to be deleting it instantly? Fuck no. That's why you have 70 plus thousand fucking driver's licenses leak out of a dashboard because we were trying to age verify people on places like fucking Discord, right? If you think this situation isn't ripe to be bad down the road, you are very, very sorely mistaken. But anyways, beyond all of this, yes, the Kids Act has passed. It is bad. But it's not the end of the world. There are still ways to sidestep this, and the only way left, really, that you have actual control over is emailing your representatives and making sure that, at least in this situation, they are primed to vote against this. And the only benefit is, from what I understand, and again, I'm not a perfect candidate for relaying this information, but I think the Senate is kind of a little bit tougher to pass this stuff through anyways, or at least it might fall into a whole different tertiary of AI regulation laws, all this crazy other crap. But for now, it's passed the House. It still has to pass the Senate, but if it passes here and it goes to the President of the United States, then it's literally up to the whim of one person to either veto this shit or sign it through. And again, if they sign it through, that shit just becomes law. And it's crazy, right? You can see the value of such a law when a lot of these organizations or a lot of these government agencies try to shuffle and fast track this crap through because they know it's controversial, right? They'll fast track it. They'll fast track mass surveillance and government censorship under the guise of protecting those fucking children, right? At the end of the day. Now, again, even when it comes to things like lobbying, remember, the lobbyists and the people that talk to these old, decrepit fucks in the government are so disingenuous that another story today that you might have seen, yesterday, was when in California, there were literally people from the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, bullshitting to these old fucking fucks who have no idea what video gaming is. They were telling them that Minecraft private servers could possibly be fucking illegal, right? That, they could be used to circumvent. Basically, the aspect of having a private server was wrong.
That's correct. Minecraft is currently hosted by community servers. Call of Duty community servers. So it's an option that is out there in existence here today.
They're illegal, and they are not in any way affiliated with Microsoft. Microsoft, for Minecraft, has gotten a lot of criticism.
So I love how this fucking lobbyist shitbag can go and say they're fucking illegal. Those private servers are illegal. Well, I mean, again, you would require that old people understand technology enough to know that if you go to Minecraft's own website, you can download a private server file right here and start it up yourself. There's a lot of kids who probably know their Java shit because they were running their own Minecraft servers. A lot of Call of Duty servers that exist privately by the community like Plutonium and shit exist in a sense that they are a lot safer than the official crap that Activision sells in the Steam storefront. But again, I guess they must be illegal, right? Again, this is the problem with the government and lobbying about anything video game related or the internet is that it is a organization that is run by people that do not understand the technology that they speak about. And because they don't understand the technology they speak about, some dipshit from fucking Silicon Valley can come in and basically tell them all sorts of crap and get away with it and actually usher in and lobby bills that ruin the experience for all of us and strengthen these big tech scumbags at the end of the day. I wish I could be a fucking lobbyist. I wish I could go up to these old pieces of shit and explain to them how fucking wrong they are and how the internet actually works. But I don't even know where to begin with that, man. I'm just some fat Indian guy on the internet that's trying to wake people up and teach people about this. Here's the thing. I've already kind of realized, look, man, I don't want to be doing this kind of content. I want to just kind of fucking go back to making some, bullshit video game slop here and there where I laugh about some stupid stuff. And, but the reality of it is that, there's two ways I go back to that. Look, either we completely lose and all this stuff passes, which at that point I'm well, whatever, we've already lost the fight. So let's just spend the next few years or however long I have left here to just fucking goof around and talk about stupid shit, right? Because we've already lost. Or the other thing is, I want to actually win this and be able to make the internet a great place, something that I grew up with, something that I enjoyed, something that has given me so much in life, something that has allowed me to cover content like creepypastas, like the dark web, all this fucking goofy shit that's existed because the internet was this free-range wasteland that we fucking love. I would love if we could pass laws and we could strengthen shit so fucking hard that we wouldn't have to worry about stuff like the Kids Act or COSA or SOPA or PIP or all these crazy attacks every fucking year on our rights and our freedoms. But I guess we just have to see how the story blows, man. Like, yes, it sucks the Kids Act is passed. It's not over yet. Contact your representatives. You know, if you're American, of course, right? Like, I'm not saying to pretend to be American and do it. I'm sure that's not allowed whatsoever. That's not kosher. But if you are American, look, dude, it takes you less time. You could have done it while you watch this video, you know? And ultimately, if I would say, dude, if even like 1% of the people watching this video that are Americans does this, I'll consider that shit to be a fucking success. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if even one person writes to their representative because of this video, it's a video worth making. But yeah, you know, that's all we really can do, man. Like, all we can really do is make your voices be heard. And if the government still doesn't want to listen, then at least you can sleep well knowing you fucking tried. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I'm so fucking tired. I'm out.